Good evening, everyone. My name is JoAnn Fields, and I am the director of the Filipino Resource Center. Thank you for joining us tonight as we launch a series of domestic violence forums. We are convening tonight as a result of a number of Pinays in our community. In the past 3 months, 3 Pinays have been killed due to a result of domestic violence in the household. So our San Diego Police Department, our community advocates, we would like to attempt to address this issue and break the cycle of domestic violence. Again, my name is JoAnn Fields, and I am the director of the Filipino Resource Center, and we welcome you to tonight's Domestic Violence Forum. Next, I would like to introduce to you our community partner that we have been working with so that we can produce this forum tonight. As you know, the forum tonight is being presented in partnership with the San Diego County District Attorney, Summer Stephan. Cheryl Suing Jones has been a deputy district attorney for over 24 years and has prosecuted cases from misdemeanors to murder. Cheryl now serves as part of the team of lawyers called Community Partnership Prosecutors, CPPS. And rather than spending time in the courtroom, she is in the community, helping to make our community safer by seeking solutions to prevent crime from happening in the first place. She represents the district attorney's office at various community events and creates opportunities for the community to provide feedback on the district attorney's work. Cheryl works alongside law enforcement, local governments, community leaders, nonprofit organizations, and residents to address quality of life issues that often have a nexus to crime. One of the biggest initiatives being launched through the CPPS are mentorship programs designed to disrupt the school to prison pipeline. She facilitates programming to address issues confronting teenagers today and presents on criminal justice topics like human trafficking, internet safety, cyberbullying, and healthy teen relationships. Cheryl will introduce our district attorney, Summer Stephan. Let us all welcome Cheryl Suing Jones.
Thank you so much for that, JoAnn. So it is my honor and privilege to introduce our district attorney, Summer Stephan. Summer has been a true hero to the San Diego community and has devoted her entire adult life to protecting women, children, and families, and to providing justice to the most vulnerable. She is a leader in the fight against domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual exploitation, and has been named a modern-day abolitionist. Summer leads an office that values protecting victims and preventing crime. One attribute that makes Summer so special is that she listens with an open heart to the voices of the community and finds innovative approaches to address complex issues. She is a champion for underserved communities and has been a tireless voice of the voiceless. Summer is on the front line of criminal justice reform, and her mission is to pursue fair and equal justice for all, and to work in partnership with communities, the County of San Diego Health and Human Services, and several other agencies to provide resources to victims of domestic violence. Notably, she partnered with the county to develop a county-wide protocol that will ensure that police and other trauma care providers are better trained to detect, document, and respond to cases of strangulation, a leading indicator of escalating relationship violence and an important risk factor for homicide in women. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome District Attorney Summer Stephan. We can't hear you, Summer.
Hello, everyone. Good to be with you for this important forum. And thank you, Cheryl, for helping to organize this event with JoAnn Fields, who's been working tirelessly on awareness for the community. One of the things that are really important to us is to partner with the community we serve in order to make for the best forums for effective prevention and awareness and education. So I want to talk a little bit about domestic violence in San Diego County, how the picture looks, and help our community understand how it looks across the county. And then the speakers that are going to come are going to specifically talk about our Filipino American community and all of the different needs and resources that are available to them. Domestic violence, I want to be clear, is not an issue for the Filipino community. It is a global issue, a national issue, and a local issue in all cultures and ethnicities. Domestic violence sadly doesn't discriminate in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation. It is across many cultures. But yet we do find that if you're able to provide services in a culturally competent manner, it really builds trust and it helps the community reach out for help and escape from violence. And this is why we were very encouraged to have this forum that is specific to the Filipino community. However, anyone can really benefit because many of the markers and red flags are similar across all cultures. The San Diego DA's office has jurisdiction across the whole county of San Diego. So we serve all 3.3 million people in all 18 cities and unincorporated areas of San Diego County. And in each part of the county, we have a specialized team that addresses domestic violence, that is specialized in trauma informed care and in the best practices for prosecution and for the protection of victims of human trafficking. And that's localized across the region. In the city of San Diego, the city attorney, Mara Elliott, her office prosecutes the misdemeanor domestic violence cases, and we also work collaboratively with that office to have consistency in our approach to justice. Now, domestic violence is one of those crimes that is really traumatic because it's not just traumatic to the actual victim that's involved, but it has a ripple effect that extends to that family, to the children left behind in that family, and also a ripple effect to the community at large. So, this is why domestic violence is one of those crimes that affects everyone. Everyone knows someone who has suffered from domestic violence. Everyone knows someone who has experienced domestic violence as a child in their home, witnessing violence. This is why the prevention of, of domestic violence essentially helps bolster, strengthen, build resilience in the family and thus the community at large. That's why it is so critical, and that's why we devote so many resources to fighting domestic violence. I want to give you a couple of right away a couple of red flags that in my career that I have seen that have been fairly consistent across domestic violence experiences. And that's that domestic violence is something that involves the dominion and control by the abuser. And it can start out very subtly with subtle things like checking the victim's phone, asking a lot of questions, controlling how long the victim has to talk on the phone, starting to show discomfort with long phone calls or strong friendships or relationships that the victim has with her family or his family, and all of the employers, the different systems of support. And this is what we call an attempt to isolate the victim. So, one thing that I want to make sure that the community that is listening, whether you yourself are a victim or whether you are a friend, a relative, you have a loved one that you're concerned about, make sure that you don't back away, that you don't allow the isolation to happen, because the more that the abuser can manipulate and control, the less control that the victim has over one's life and the less safe the victim becomes. And this is why you want to know all of the resources. You want to know what the safety plan would look like in order to remain close, to notice the red flags, and to assist the victim to escape from that violence. The second big point I want to give is that we know and we notice from the thousands of cases that we handle for domestic violence, both misdemeanors and felonies, that the more that the victim is ready to break away, we call it a triggering event, whether it is filing for divorce or filing for a restraining order, the more that there can be a potential for that violence to escalate to homicide. What that means is that there needs to be resources brought about if you suspect that your partner is abusive, has been abusive, could escalate into more violence, is to make sure that there's a safety plan and that the victims know they're not alone and that they can escape with the help of expert resources. One of those expert resources can be found at the Family Justice Center downtown that's run by the city attorney. We're also opening another Family Justice Center to regionalize in the North County coming soon to assist victims. But also, all of the different resources found at resource centers, at our office at san diego da.com, through our victim advocates, through the national hotline, thehotline.org, that provides confidential services in every language 24/7. So many resources are available, but victims often feel that they're in a tunnel and they're alone. I want to now that I've given you two big things that jump out that are consistent throughout any domestic violence situation that increases to more and more violence and even homicide. I want to give you some statistics. In 2020, we had 17,679 incidents of domestic violence reported to law enforcement. I know Lieutenant Al Ambito is on, and he knows very well how strong of a protocol we have in San Diego for police response on domestic violence. I'm truly proud of the response of law enforcement on domestic violence, how well the training has been going, and the empathetic, compassionate response that our police officers and deputies provide in these circumstances. But remember that domestic violence is one of the most underreported crimes. So when we're seeing 17,679 reports, which has been consistent every year, pretty consistent in the 17,000s, that is an underreport, because we know so many victims do not report domestic violence because of shame, because of feeling that they want to hold on to their family, because relationships in domestic violence begin with love, and so they hold out hope that that relationship is going to turn around. And unfortunately, it often doesn't get better without intervention, without psychological care, without counseling. It can get worse over time. Now, domestic violence homicides. We have experienced over the last 4 years an actual reduction in domestic violence homicides. So, this is a piece of good news and really a testament that prevention and awareness and education and protocols make a huge difference. So, we compared this 4 year period to the last 4 years before this period of time. So we compared the years of um, the 2013 to 2016 to 2017 to 2020. And there's consistently a 15% drop in homicides. And one of the big factors we attribute this to, sadly, we heard a lot about it through the very publicized Gabby Petito case, is the fact that strangulation, that means someone putting their hands on someone's throat, that is so highly connected through research and data with lethality, with that this could escalate to a homicide. This was Dr. Campbell's study. San Diego really took that to heart. So what did we do? We changed for all of law enforcement our strangulation protocol. That means every time an officer responds to a domestic violence call, they will ask questions about whether there was choking or strangulation activity. And the reason they ask that is because that puts that victim in a high risk category per the research and data, and needs more intervention, more services. And also, it provides the potential that that victim could suffer life threatening injuries that may not be noticeable. We had one case where the victim had actually a lacerated larynx, and she didn't know it. She just thought that she had a sore throat until that new protocol that we put forth when I came into office, that made sure that there's a forensic nurse that does an examination and is able to refer to emergency rooms or provide further care. That dropped the strangulation homicides in our county from contributing to 13.5% of the domestic violence homicides to contributing to 2.3% of the domestic violence homicides. We also put forth a whole health protocol because we don't believe that domestic violence can be fought by just law enforcement. This is why we welcome our health partners, our counseling partners, our community partners, because that community whole response is what makes a big difference. And this is part of this forum tonight that you will see. And this is why this health protocol allowed doctors, nurses, health providers to understand and spot the red flags of domestic violence and provide referrals for victims that are safe. So I'm very excited that in this program, you're also going to meet one of our deputy district attorneys that's on the ground doing this work, Justine Santiago. You're also going to meet our victim advocates later in the program, Terene Sarabania and Carrie Duncan, who are experts in providing safety planning, also in assisting victims throughout their journey so that they can come out the other side and be safe and live lives that are free of violence. And that's super important that we break that cycle, as JoAnn mentioned. Super important because the next generation that witnesses violence in the homes begins to normalize that violence. And we know that kids that grow up in homes that experience domestic violence are more susceptible to either becoming victims themselves because they accept or see that as the only way to have a relationship, or become abusers because this is all they've experienced. And this is why breaking that cycle through education, through prevention is really, really important. And our whole community has seen the devastating results of domestic violence through cases that have been publicized in the media. And that's why we're here, and we're going to fight every day to save one more life. So thank you so much. And I think next is hearing from our prosecutor, Justine Santiago. That's what I have in my order. So maybe I'll call on Justine to give a few remarks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Summer. Okay, and I think now you may be able to hear me a little bit better, but hello everyone. My name is Justine Santiago, as Summer said. I am one of the DAs, the Deputy District Attorneys, who are assigned to one of the specialized units that Summer referenced. In family protection, we deal with domestic violence. We receive specialized training in the area, and we make sure that we're really well versed with the nuances that go into prosecuting domestic violence cases. Our office dedicates time and resources to this issue through programs where we work with community partners like the Domestic Violence Coalition or the High Risk Team, where we work with other agencies to recognize victims who may be at a higher risk of lethality based on certain criteria or certain factors that they have. So I am one of the DAs who works in this area and sees on a day-to-day basis that this type of violence impacts not only the victim itself, as Summer had said, but their families and the community. And domestic violence is not a new issue within our community. It's not novel. However, it is becoming more well known. It's getting more attention. As we had just heard, there are new protocols in place. For example, the strangulation protocol that was put in place by the DA's office and the protocols with law enforcement when it comes to strangulation or arrests. So there are things that are gaining more attention that go hand in hand with the media and social media that are shedding more light on how prevalent this issue is and the importance of not only providing the resources for the victims, but the resources for us to be able to help these victims. I am hopeful as a prosecutor in this area that this type of attention on this issue will help to normalize the necessity to ask for help and to reach out to others who need the help. So even though we have that, even though we are headed in that direction, it's still an uphill battle when it comes to prosecuting these types of cases. Domestic violence, as Summer said, doesn't discriminate between race, gender, age even. And one of the things that we see is that it crosses generations. You have teen violence, you have domestic violence that will start when you're in high school, when teens start dating, all the way to situations where people are in committed marriages for over 20 years, and either they've experienced domestic violence that entire time, or it's something new that develops. It does not discriminate between people. We can see the situations where we have this grooming type of behavior, the subtle increasing type of control, dominion and control that we heard about. But at the same time, there's also plenty of cases that we see where those red flags aren't there, but there are triggering events, whether it be a deteriorating relationship, a divorce, child custody, all of the things that can trigger someone to act out with violence. So those are all things that we want our victims to be aware of, as well as family members, friends, to be able to be there to support them as that process moves forward. Domestic violence is very nuanced in the sense that it's very different from prosecuting a theft, a burglary, a possession of drugs case, because you have all those nuanced nuances within it. You have that intimate relationship, you have children involved, you have family involved. These lives are intertwined. So when it comes to prosecuting these cases, it's not just cut and dry. We have victims who are first reluctant to even report these cases to begin with, whether it be because they're embarrassed, because they want to hold on to this notion of a relationship that they believe that they were in, whether they're in denial, or whether they're even in fear for being able to report it. Sometimes it never gets reported to law enforcement. As Summer said, it's one of the most underreported statistics that we have. But one of the difficulties that we also face is that even when a victim is brave enough, when they get the courage to call law enforcement, it doesn't automatically mean that we are able to go ahead and pursue a case to file charges. And that's one of the most difficult things of my job, is to be able to tell a victim that I believe them, that I know something terrible has happened to them, but I'm not able to move forward with a criminal case. And that's because of our burden as prosecutors. We have an ethical obligation not to issue something if we can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And as you're all aware, these crimes happen behind closed doors. Sometimes it's verbal abuse, sometimes it's mental abuse, sometimes there aren't scars that we can use as evidence to show that something happened. So our hands are tied a lot of the times. And even when we are able to prove it, when we are able to move forward with the case, what we run into a lot of times are our victims recant. And we understand that. We don't want to judge our victims or blame them, but for the same reasons that they are reluctant to report, they're reluctant to follow through with prosecution sometimes. They realize that they're going to lose their financial support. They're going to lose the support for their children. They can't do this on their own. So there are a lot of different dynamics at play. One of the things that, with regard specifically to the Filipino population, I know personally that a lot of Filipinos are very religious. So one of the most difficult things for them to do is to even fathom the idea of divorce, to get out of a relationship when that's really the only way they can do it. So those are different dynamics that are in play when we are not only trying to help these victims, but prosecute the cases. So one of the most important things I emphasize from my end is just to let everyone know that whether a case is being filed or not, your voices are being heard. We're here to support you, and we want the community to know that they should support and rally around everyone as well, because it is an issue that's gaining a lot of support from the media and social media and everything like that. And that is because it's a very important thing to me personally and the DA's office.
All right. Thank you so much, Justine. We appreciate your time. JoAnn, are you with us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Justine. Thank you, District Attorney Stephan, for giving us that introduction on signs of domestic violence, and also the resources that we will begin to learn and be able to connect with your office. Now I would like to introduce one of our guest speakers, and many of you may have heard of her current story. She is in search of her sister, Maya Millete. And if you don't know about Maya, Maya has been missing since earlier this year in January 7th. And in recent weeks, Maya's estranged husband has been arrested on suspicion of murder of Maya Millete. And it is related to domestic violence. And to share how domestic violence impacts the family, the kids, extended family, and friends, we have Maya's sister, Maricris, and also Maricris's husband, Richard. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Maricris. Can you hear me?
Hi, I'm so sorry. I
There
thought
you
I had,
are.
yeah, yes, had to unmute myself.
It's
Thank you
okay.
for,
Welcome back. Please feel free to
thank
start again.
you. I know, my husband's gonna try and join me in a bit. I was just saying thank you for having me today. And JoAnn asked me if I could be on in a domestic violence forum, and I said yes, not even knowing what really entails it. But I said domestic violence, and if it's gonna help someone somewhere somehow with my sister's story and with my sister's case, and then still be a voice for her, I'll do it. I didn't really had that much, to prepare for today, but I wish I've known a lot more about domestic violence. But knowing what I know now, my sister disappeared in the effect of domestic violence. No matter what angle I looked at it, she is gone because of domestic violence. I didn't see it coming. Yeah, her and her husband has been they were together for 20 years. I truly thought my sister got lucky that even though they got married at a young age, her marriage is healthy. It's not perfect, but it's a normal marriage. They have 3 beautiful kids. They have both successful in their careers, a beautiful house, lives in a really good community. Overall, they live in a comfortable life. I didn't see it coming. I didn't know. I didn't know she's been suffering. I didn't know she's been suffering from domestic violence all these years. She kept it hidden. She kept it hidden from us, her family. I thought it was just, a small fight and misunderstanding as every married couple have. She hid that secret from the family. So I didn't worry. She stayed to protect her kids. She stayed for the sake of the kids. Last year, the 2020 was the big change in their relationship. The issue was so evident. We can tell they are arguing, and they were fighting a lot, even though they tried to argue. And when we're not around, we can tell they've been arguing. We tried to intervene. We tried, but she would always tell us she got this, and that she would deal with it. She didn't want the family to get involved. She always tell us she got this, and I believe her. I believe her because I know she's a strong person. She's a strong woman. I couldn't imagine her husband of 20 years, would hurt her. I was so wrong. My sister is gone because of domestic violence. I didn't know. To be honest, I didn't know there's resources out there that my sister will be gone for domestic. It is what happened to us completely tore our entire family. We are a family of 30, always getting together on every occasions and every opportunity that we can get together to create memories. Just being together makes us really happy. But since Maya's absence, nothing would have been the same. We'll never be complete again. What had happened to her really devastated the whole family. And it's not just us, not just me, my husband, my siblings, but the entire family, including my nieces and my nephew, their entire cousins, and all the extended family. Were all devastated of what had happened. And I can't even imagine how her two daughters, and her son, I'm not even know what their future gonna be. Their mom is gone, and their dad is in prison. This is an effect. This is the effect of domestic violence. And I hope my sister's story be a lesson to everyone. Please don't let anyone in your family happen to my sister. Don't let anyone. If you have a friend or if you have a family member that is going through this, not just physical violence, emotional violence, financial violence, please let them know that there are resources out there and help them. I know my sister had enough. She was ready, as Summer said, the triggering effect. She told me she's going for a divorce. She's talking to the divorce lawyer. I didn't know that is a triggering effect. I didn't know at all. If I could have known, I could have intervened more. All I did tell her is that when she told me she consulted a divorce lawyer, and I just told her, just be careful. That's all I told her. Just be careful. And then she said she knows. She got it. But please, if anyone told you or tell you they're going to divorce, please help them. Tell them that they're not alone, that she's not going to go by herself. She's not doing it on her own. Please help them go through it. Don't let your family member be like my sister. Don't let your friend be like my sister. Please be aware that there are resources out there, that there are help out there, and let them know that they are not alone, that you are with them, that you are going through the same tunnel as them. Please. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for listening to my sister's story. Thank you.
Thank you, Maricris. I know that it is very challenging still, even months after she is missing. We're hoping and praying for you and your family. We are hoping we can also find her. So we are going to post the search flyer that you have for Maya so that we can join you. This is something that our community can help wherever you may be watching. We're going to make sure we post this flyer up on the Filipino Resource Center page so that in case you may have seen this car, the black Lexus with Melani's as the license plate, the personalized plate, are still searching for Maya, and you can help us find her. If you have a tip, maybe you've seen it in your community. There is a belief that maybe he drove her outside San Diego County, and maybe you saw this car. Maybe this will jog your memory. So please call Chula Vista Police. The number's there on the screen, 619-691-5151. Another way you can help is to post this flyer on your network. It doesn't cost anything. We just need you to click it and send it out to your network far and wide so that we can continue the search for Maya, so that we can help bring closure for her sister and for Richard, and more importantly, her children. She has 3 beautiful children, 5, 9, and 11, and so many that are grieving. So we want to again get the word out, and please help in the search. And there's more information that we will post that you can join the search that they have every weekend. I know Maricris and Richard, they just returned from Salton Sea, and the search is far and wide. And again, thank you, Maricris and Richard, for sharing. I know it cannot be easy, but I have a strong belief that you may just have inspired someone to help another that may be going through something similar. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, JoAnn.
Thank you, JoAnn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, that was very that was very near and dear for us in the Chula Vista community. So again, we will post that flyer, and we hope that you will also assist in the search by just sharing that flyer out. And if you have noticed that car in your neighborhood, even though it's outside of San Diego, that would be of great help in the search for Maya. So now I would like to introduce to you another community partner that we have. Vanity Tenorio is a strong advocate. She assisted an elderly Pinay that she wasn't planning on obtaining assistance, but God had her cross our paths. And Vanity is going to share her experience and also connect with resources from the organization that she works with. So thank you for joining us, Vanity.
JoAnn, thank you for having me, and my heart goes out to Maricris and your entire family. Thank you for sharing your story, and I do hope that it inspires and empowers everyone that's watching to either listen to your family members or, ask an extra probing question. And as JoAnn said, I accidentally had the honor of helping an elderly Filipino community member that has experienced a triggering effect and decided to take the first step into regaining her power. And she had undergone decades of passive aggressive financial abuse, isolation, manipulation of her image with her family members and even children. And it was, again, by accident. She just saw community center where I happened to be and felt so alone and kind of blind to resources around her. And she also felt a little shuffled around with the community where she just needed an ear. And luckily, I was in a place that was safe enough that she can voice her opinions. And after letting her just vent and release into this safe space, I gauged her comfort with receiving referrals, or just seeing if she was open to hearing some of the resources that I had or some solutions. We were able to develop a rapport and a trust where we can connect. And with your help, JoAnn, we networked creatively to find some of the resources that she needed. There is a great need for interpretation, especially for her dialect of Tagalog. So thank you for your help. And I guess the bottom line is domestic violence comes in many different forms, as we heard from our experts and elected officials earlier this evening, but just ask for help, lend an ear, meet people where they're at, and understand that it can happen to anyone, young or old, any creed, any color. Be there, meet them where they're at, and just connect however you can. It always starts with a question and an eagerness to help. JoAnn, thank you so much for having me. I will be happy to share resources as they come in through your network. And please feel free to tag me for any questions or further connections.
Thank you, Vanity. That was a few years back when that took place. And if I remember right, she was trying to seek counseling, which was the next bus stop. And she got off at the bus stop in front of your office. So I believe that's divine order. And it was a blessing that we were working together at that time. And sometimes it just happens that way. And that's where we found out a need. We found the need for translation when she was going to court. And come to find out, you can't just bring a family member or a friend to translate. The courts would not allow that. You have to have a certified court translator, which does make sense. But as you're going through that process, that was a shock. And then to try to find a certified court translator in Tagalog, that was another feat. So there is a need for that certified person, and we would not have found that out until this occurrence. So thank you, Vanity, for your persistence to assist. And I hope she is in a better place now. But knowing the needs of what in the courtroom, that we can work with our elected officials to change that and hopefully provide a much needed service that you may not realize until you're in that situation. So thank you, Vanity, for sharing. Okay, next I would like to introduce another strong community partner. Many of you may have seen him. There was a recent celebration of the House of Philippines. You see him in the community when there's marches in southeastern San Diego. He is very active. We have Lieutenant Ambito, who has gone over and beyond of service in our community. And I just love that he made himself available with his very busy schedule. He is one of the founders and is a current board member of the Filipino American Law Enforcement Organization, FALEO. And why he's very important, we have been talking about being culturally sensitive, culturally correct, culturally competent. So that's why it is very important. We see someone in leadership, someone that we can connect directly to, that understands our culture, our heritage, and what may be going on in the household. So I'd like to welcome Lieutenant Ambito. Thank you for joining us, Al.
Good evening, everyone. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. So, like JoAnn said, my name is Ambito. I'm with the San Diego Police Department. My introductions usually, because I wear a whole bunch of different hats. So with the San Diego Police Department, I am the liaison for the Asian Pacific Islander community. So all the communities in the Asian Pacific Islander group, And then I'm also a director for the Filipino American Law Enforcement Association here in San Diego. And I'm also a vice president for the San Diego Pan Pacific Law Enforcement Association, which just encompasses pretty much a great group of diverse group here in law enforcement that includes pretty much every agency here in San Diego. So, I was asked to explain how to report domestic violence. So that's kind of the easiest way of starting my part. So I believe, well, this is the thing, is that I know we've heard it from the district attorney, from Justine, that this is not a new issue. Domestic violence has been with us for a very long time, and it's a worldwide issue, not just here in San Diego. So, but here I can speak. The great thing about San Diego is we have this regional protocol. Our protocol is the same regardless of what agency you're going to be dealing with. So whether you're in Natural City, Chula Vista, San Diego, our reporting for domestic violence is the same. So that the district attorney, which handles pretty much every agency in San Diego, it brings less confusion as far as the reporting part. So when they get the case, it's not like, okay, they don't understand because it's San Diego. They don't understand because it's National City. So it just brings just less confusion as far as the reporting part. Now, reporting of domestic violence. So I guess it's more of calling 911. So the biggest key, the key factor for domestic violence is your immediate safety first. So that's what we need to understand first. So a lot of people say we need to call 911. Yes, absolutely. If it's happening now, call 911. But what I tell people is get to a safe place first. Whether you need to leave the house, you need to leave the room, you need to get out of the car, regardless of where you are. So the main key is getting to a safe place so that you can make that call. So 911 is always available to everybody, especially if it's happening now. So they will assess your situation and see if the immediate need of sending an officer would be required. So, and that's what it is. So officers would be taking a report. So, and that's one of the things too, is reporting, right? So there's different things that should I report if it's just a verbal argument or, a pushing or shoving and all these different things that are happening with their domestic violence issue. And let me speak on the Filipino side, since we're through the Filipino Resource Center. Just like Justine said and District Attorney said, that this is a very unreported crime because of our culture, right? So the great thing is, I completely understand it because I was born and raised in the Philippines, so I understand it. I speak Tagalog. So I think that is the biggest hurdle for our community for reporting it, because sometimes there's that language barrier, right? So rest assured, though, that we have resources within the police department and the other police department as well that speak our language. So Filipino is one of the largest groups here in San Diego. And with our department as well, we are one of the largest minority groups in the department. So we do have people, including myself, that speak Tagalog. So it just makes it easier for us to take the report. And also not just the verbal part, not just the communication, but also understanding the culture, right? Hurdle again, because like they mentioned before, is that we as Filipinos, we are very private. So I think it's the unreported, because we don't want other people to know that we have issues within our family. We want to take care of it ourselves. So I mean, my heart breaks for Maricris and her family because of things that happened through it, because it was unreported. So let's go back now to a verbal argument, right? So we, as a police department, will take a report if there is fear involved. So let's say I was with my partner, I was with my wife, girlfriend, and we had an argument. And so there's maybe, some issues where not even a verbal threat was made, but that if it continues, something bad might happen. So now there's fear of something like that. So it would be good to call us and we can document that. So that's where it starts, because sometimes we're called when it's already too late. Somebody already got physically hurt, and that's what we're trying to prevent. So we want to try reporting it when, on the verbal side first. So again, there's just some steps that, that people think, oh yeah, we were just arguing, it's not, the police is not going to do anything about it. Um, that's untrue. We will take a report for it, because that's just our strict protocol here in San Diego County, and that's what the district attorney just mentioned. Our response to domestic violence is very strict. California has the one of the strictest, if not the strictest, domestic violence state, or as far as the laws for domestic violence. So again, that's just one of the things that we want to encourage, especially here in the police department, to call us. Whether we're going to take a report or not, at least we, as a police department, we will have your address, your names, and it will be documented somehow. Even though it's not a case to where we can submit it for prosecution, at least it's documented that we know there's a history of violence, whether it's verbal or physical. So we have that on our background. Now, it's again, as far as calling, 911 is your first option. You can also call the local non-emergency line when you're already on a safe place. That all you need is a documentation and a report. So you can call the non-emergency phone numbers for the agency or jurisdiction that you live in. And then you can also utilize us as resources, our liaisons, which I can only speak for the San Diego Police Department, because this is how we function. We have liaisons for pretty much everything. So I'm one of 3 liaisons for the Asian Pacific Islander community. So if I'm not available, there are 2 other people that can cover for me. So those are the things that you can use. Whether we know what to do or we know someone that can handle your case or your issue, at least we have the network, just like JoAnn. JoAnn is one of the best resources out there, because she knows everybody. So she knows where to reach out and who to talk to and who to, guide you to get the help that you need. So those are the network that we have, as well as liaisons for the San Diego Police Department, whether it's elder abuse or, domestic violence, child abuse, anything that you can think of. So we can at least direct you to the right people. And sometimes we can grease the skids a little bit, because, we can point you to the right direction, or actually get an officer to talk to you. So again, that's just for the report. And then when we do come, unfortunately, that's just when we come to you as a victim or a witness. Something bad has already happened, right? So hopefully it's not as bad yet, but when we do, we take a report. So you have officers that will talk to you, so extend a little bit of grace, because they have to find out the facts, what happened, and they have to separate the 2 parties, whether, they have to get independent statements from each one. So those are the things that kind of take a little bit of time, because, it's a delicate issue. So after that, it's either we arrest one side of the party, and so that's probably sometimes, or most of the time, is the best way of separating the parties so that nobody else gets hurt. But people now, they and like a lot of people have said already, is that this is not just between 2 people. It involves your family, it involves your kids. Unfortunately, for something like that, it's heartbreaking for us as officers, that we go to a family and we have to separate you. sometimes we have to be the bad guys and we have to take away your kids because of something that happens. But again, that's our job. Let us be the bad guys, So, and for something like that, we may have saved somebody's life, So again, that's just something that we do. Once the officers take the reports, we give resources. We can give emergency protective orders at the spot. We can serve the other person so that they know that they're not supposed to make contact with each other, and then give you resources, especially with the Family Justice Center, how to reach them, all the other resources that we have. And most importantly, we give you resources on our amazing victim advocates that we have for domestic violence. So again, that's something that we can do for you. And just for questions, we are available for you. So just like a few days ago, I had a call from one of the resources that we have from the Filipino community that somebody from their family was a victim of domestic violence and they were in the hospital. So the first person that they called was me, instead of 911 or the San Diego Police Department. But that was fine. I was able to guide them to the right path, the right person to talk to, or right department to talk to. So, but that's what we are for you folks. So just use the free resources. We are pleased and happy to be here for you for anything. So thank you, JoAnn.
Thank you, Al. And that's exactly why we are having tonight's domestic violence forum. I'd rather have people put a face to a name, to a phone number, to a department, because it can be intimidating if you're just given a sheet of paper and told, okay, go figure it out. Thanks for calling, or thanks for visiting. But knowing that you are a community leader, that you are a resource, a point of contact that we can call there at San Diego Police Department. We have to thank Chief Nislight for having you in your position and hopefully hire soon, because we need representation so that when we need to make that phone call, our community knows who to call, because it is important that we have someone that knows the nuances, again, the cultural sensitivity, the cultural knowledge, and expertise of how to navigate, and also to share with a family member or a friend that they do feel safe when they call you. Because again, it is very hard to share and be vulnerable, to ask for help. And I'm praying for that family, that they are able to seek help and get the help that they need. But very thankful that you have shared the process of what to do. We usually do not call 911 unless it's extreme life or death situation, and many times it is. But there is that non-emergency line. There is a direct line to you that we have. So we are very thankful that you are there, and that we have FALEO and different cities and different levels of law enforcement, so that we can ask the question and be comfortable in doing so, because we're in an uncomfortable situation at times. So thank you, Lieutenant Ambito, for sharing your resource and your experience and knowledge of how to make a report, and that you are available to assist. So thank you again. Okay, so you've heard from San Diego Police Department's finest, Lieutenant Al Ambito. Now we are going to transition and hear from the office of the district attorney. She has victim advocates that also can help navigate and support you through the process of when it comes to reporting and finding other support services that a victim may need. And I do want to note that it's not only women. It's not only women that is affected by domestic violence. Sometimes it's the other way around. The women may be abusive towards their male spouse. So again, domestic violence does not know age. It doesn't limit on financial status or the region that you may reside in the county of San Diego, and definitely not by ethnicity. So we hope this domestic violence forum is helpful in information, and we have more information to share with you. So now I would like to introduce our district attorney's victim advocates, Tarana Sarabana, and also Carrie Duncan. I hope I pronounced your names correctly. I'm very sensitive to that as well. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But welcome to our platform tonight. And we look forward to learning from you on the resources that are available through your office.
Thank you, JoAnn, for having us. Thank you, everyone. Carrie and I are here to just talk a little bit about the resources that are available to the community at large. Our office has its own victim assistance program made up of 20 advocates, and we assist victims every day, regardless of whether there is an issued criminal case. That's one thing that we really want to highlight here, is that you don't have to have a criminal case that's been issued to get that assistance. We have phone calls. We have people reaching out every day, asking for help. Those same calls that the lieutenant mentioned, asking for information and guidance. You can call anonymously, actually. We want you to get that information so that you can make the right steps, the steps that are right for your family, for yourself. But we want to empower you through that process. And so I just want to touch on a little bit about what that means as far as reporting. So if someone reports a crime, we all know, and we've heard before, that time between reporting and getting out away from that perpetrator is so pivotal and so dangerous, right? And so we want to offer information and resources so that in that pocket of time, the victim and their family can be in a safe place. That means connecting victims to social service agencies in the San Diego region. Carrie's going to touch on the victim assistance, the Victim Compensation Board program as well. But also working with law enforcement closely, attending victim interviews when the victim is retelling their story at the police department as a support person, when the victim is looking to relocate right away to get away from the perpetrator, that type of safety planning. Assistance with explaining how to file for a temporary restraining order, where to go, the hours of office, so that the victim isn't traveling to the courthouse and missing, an opportunity to file that order in time to have it served on the perpetrator. And offering those services with language in mind. So we don't want immigration status or language to be a barrier for victims of crime. And really, I just want to really hone in on this issue. We want, as much as outreach as we do, we really, really want to do more. We want to reach every person who's in their home, who's afraid to make that phone call because it shows up in the phone log, or to send an email. If you can call our main line at 619-531-4041, you'll be assigned a victim advocate who can give you that information to take those next steps in a safe and appropriate manner without pushing anyone to do anything that they're not comfortable with, but just so that they understand the consequences and to make an informed decision that's right for that victim. And I also want to just take a moment to thank Maricris and her husband, Richard, for sharing their personal connection to issues of domestic violence. Thank you so much for your strength in honoring your sister that way, Maya. And I'll leave it to Carrie here, my colleague.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Tierney, for the introduction. I also wanted to echo her statements in thanking Maricris and her husband, Richard, for being here and being a continued voice for Maya and other victims while doing that too. It's really amazing and it's really important. And we thank you so much for that. I'm going to go over some services that our division provides to victims and survivors when a case is actually issued. So that's when there are formal charges against a perpetrator. So one of the main things we're going to do right away, or at least offer to do right away, is assist the victim and their family in applying for crime victims compensation. So the Crime Victims Compensation Board for the state of California, they help to, their goal is to offset the effects of crime on victims' life and their family's life. This can include funds for relocation. That does include funds for emergency relocation, mental health therapy, home security, medical care, and more. As Tierney said, we provide appropriate referral and resources for victims, and we meet victims where they are and try to tailor our services to their specific needs and issues. So we kind of do a quick assessment of what would be the appropriate services for that specific victim. Throughout the case, we provide safety planning, criminal justice orientation and information, and continued referrals and resources. Survivors experiencing this kind of trauma, physical, emotional, and mental abuse often need continued information, resources, and support throughout the case. We work as a team with the deputy district attorneys, the district attorney investigators, and law enforcement to support victims and their families and make sure their rights are upheld. We attend meetings and interviews with victims. If a victim testifies, we provide court support for them and provide tools and education to provide relief while they testify. When a defendant is sentenced, the victim, if they choose, again, it's all about what they want to do, they can provide a victim impact statement at that time. And and that can be however they want. They can do it through writing, and they can have it. They can submit it through writing and have one of us read, or have the DA on the case read. And they can also come in person and give that statement themselves. And this can be, if the victim wants, a pretty integral part of their healing, if that's something they're pulled to do. So we'll assist them in that. We have some documents we can provide to help them learn how to write it and then best express themselves. But it's really going to be about them and what their wishes are and what they want the court to hear on that day. After a case is complete, we can continue to provide support, resources, and information. So we're still going to be available. It's not like the case ends and we're just out of their life completely. We're still happy to help in whatever way we can. We don't shut that door. We are here to assist the victims and their immediate circle to create a sense of support and empowerment while maintaining safety. We are here to help because we don't want any person to feel helpless and alone in their flight from the perpetrator. We want to help restore their sense of self, safety, and well-being.
And to anyone listening, it is possible. So if you feel isolated, if you feel like you can't tell anyone in your family and you are stuck, you are not stuck, and you can find that assistance through the many advocates we have on the line here. And again, that phone number for the main line of our office, and you'll be connected to an advocate. It's not a 24-hour hotline, but if you leave a message, and I know no one likes voicemail, but you will be assigned to an advocate. That number is 619-531-4041. And we're happy to help explain all the services that are available to you. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you for sharing and caring. I'm sure this cannot be an easy position, but knowing that you are advocates available in our community and well-versed in all the resources that can possibly be offered through your office or even connecting in the community, we really appreciate you sharing. And we hope if there's anyone that is watching that may be in need of assistance, please call that number 619-531-4041, where they can help you navigate through the process and get you into a safe place.
Thank you, JoAnn.
Thank you again. Okay, so we have arrived to the time where we want to open up the floor for Q&A. You can either type it in. I believe there's a chat box that you may be able to access. I'm monitoring on social media, on Facebook. And here's Susan. De Los Santos from the Filipino Press, do you happen to have a list of behaviors that are defined, considered as abuse that crosses cultural lines? That is a interesting question. I'm going to ask our advocates if there is such a list of behaviors or signs that are defined, considered abuse that cross, because again, that is a good point, because it may be the norm. It may be the norm for our certain culture, and specifically in the Filipino culture.
Sure. So what I would add, and I come from a different culture that also unfortunately has issues of domestic violence that's pretty rampant. I happen to be Iranian American. And really it crosses cultural lines, but every culture, as I think the lieutenant mentioned, it's hard to talk about family issues outside the family. We have a lot of respect for those family structures. And so what I would say is, as far as the list of behaviors that you see really truly across the board within any culture, is that control and manipulation and making that world around that victim tighter and smaller and more secretive, and so that the victim feels both isolated and ashamed, really, to come out and speak.
Thank you so much for that. There was another question in the comments asking for the 800 number hotline. Can we have that shared with us at this time?
Oh.
As we gather that national 800 hotline, I do want to just recap the local number that our Victim Advocate Office of the District Attorney shared with us. That is 619-531-4041. And if any of our panelists has the 800 number for domestic violence, we are our viewers are ready for that.
So we're together. So one number that's available is the national hotline, and you can email if you don't want somebody to hear you at the hotline. So that's when you Google the hotline, it comes up. And one of the first screens is to identify whether you're safe, whether somebody could be monitoring your screen. They give you tips on that. But the number is 1-800-799-SAFE or 1-800-799-7233.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I think maybe as we wait for another question, I want to kind of clarify abuse. So there is abuse, obviously it can be defined as like emotional abuse and disrespect and yelling, and all sorts of behaviors can be considered abuse. But for legal abuse, for like domestic violence, reportable legal level abuse, there has to be violence, physical violence, or a threat of violence or harm. And that's kind of the features that trigger a legal criminal investigation. So but you can take the totality of circumstances. So if there's a combination of emotional yelling, but in addition to that is a threat of violence. You know, if you leave, this is going to happen. You know, your body will be buried really well, or some indication of violence, that threat of violence, or actual physical violence. You lay hands on somebody, you put your hands on their throat, you push, you shove, you punch, you stab, you shoot, all of those obvious things, but even the lesser behaviors. But when we look, that's not what we look at when we're doing safety planning. That's what you do in terms of reportable, prosecutable domestic violence under the penal code sections. But when we're doing safety planning with the victim advocates, you're looking at all of the behavior, the financial control, the emotional control, the subtle threats that may not amount to an actual threat of imminent harm. So what I'm saying is that people should call for help, call to get help, even if they're unsure if it amounts to an actual prosecution or a crime that can be investigated as a crime by police. Because we want to try to intervene along the way. We're hoping that we don't get to a crime.
Thank you very much. Our next question comes from Ronald Buenaventura, and his question is, if the victim is a child of age K through 12, oh, we lost that, and they are facing domestic violence, how do they get help, especially if the parents are contributing to the abuse? Great question.
So that is definitely something that the child K through 12, if their own family is the threat or is covering up the abuse, you know, we have a lot of teen violence, or we have you know, other forms of domestic violence within the home, then they should report to a mandated reporter, a teacher, a counselor at school who is mandated to report to police and to the child abuse hotline. And that way they can get that intervention if they're not ready to call 911 or police themselves because they're young, then report to a trusted counselor, teacher, and that's your best bet to get the help that you need to get away from that violence. Team, do you have any other suggestions?
On the police side, so something like this, you know, like different jurisdiction, let's say, let me just speak about the city of San Diego. We have the San Diego Unified School District. So they have their own police department, but we also have juvenile service teams. So we have officers that are strictly and exclusively just handling schools from K to 12. So any parents, or not even parents, if you know that a child is being hurt, being abused of any sort, you can go to the school. You can let the teachers know. They are mandated reporters. So what they would do normally would be call us, whether our juvenile service team or the school police officers that from this San Diego Unified School District. And that goes with every jurisdiction. Chula Vista has their SROs, the school resource officers. National City has them. So all the different cities that, you know, are within the San Diego County, they're all mandated reporters if you go to the school. So that is the easiest way of doing it, so that you are at least away from the parents and they don't need to know that you are talking to someone. But, you know, it at least gets to the law enforcement, just like the district attorney has said. That's the main thing, is that we know what's happening.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. I do have a question that came up in the comments that reads, what is the plan on how we can spread more forums like this in our Filipino community? I know if we all have different media, but can we have some flyers maybe on stores like Seafood City? Is that legal? or is there a way we can also be aware of more help that is available?
Well, I know that
Thank
Cheryl
you so much for
Jones.
that question.
Oh, go ahead, JoAnn.
Oh no, please continue.
Oh, okay. Well, we have a lot of different informational flyers that are in different languages about resources and other things. So if any person on the line is aware or they have a store and they want to put up a number to get help, we find that for our victims that are afraid, like victims of human trafficking or domestic violence, putting a safe number in the bathroom stall is a really good place to just have that number, have a few safe numbers so that when they're there, like in any kind of supermarket or store or convenience, they can find that number easily. And we have those kinds of resources. Cheryl Suing Jones, our community partnership prosecutor, has all sorts, so you can make that request of JoAnn or of our office, and we'll make appropriate numbers flyers available to you.
Thank you, District Attorney Stephan, for that. We were trying to get a contact list made available. This is the first of a series of domestic violence forums, so we will get that ASAP. Definitely will post it on our social media pages. We will email out the information, but that is a great idea, Pasita, that we are pursuing. So we will work with our district attorney, SDPG, and all of our law enforcement and community-based partners.
Looks like we lost JoAnn there, but she was definitely continuing to say that she'll make the necessary connections to get that information out through the networks of community leaders here, herself at the Resource Center, and I definitely want to encourage those viewing tonight to contact the Filipino Resource Center if you do have any questions or would like some flyers and information. I see JoAnn is joining us again. While she
JoAnn,
we do have. I'm sorry, Cheryl, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to say, Summer mentioned that.
As I'm known for not being able to run an online program smoothly, so thank you for bearing with me. Thank you.
Oh.
I was saying I can provide resources about what for victims. We have a number of palm cards that give victims resources of where they can call. And if we had done this in person, we would have had them to distribute, but I can bring them to you or send them to you. I'll also put my contact information in the chat because while people, that's what our role is as community partnership prosecutors, to be a liaison. And so you can contact me at any time. I am always available by email and cell phone. So I will put my information in, and please let me know where I can deliver some of those flyers.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cheryl. Thank you very much. I do have another question that has been added to the comments. We might have addressed this, but I think it might behoove our audience to recap. When a victim calls for help, what is normally the process for them to get help, and how long do they get a restraining order from the perpetrator?
I think that all comes down to help from where. I'm assuming that if you call 911 or the police, if they respond, of course it's immediate help that they can get. Now depending on the situation, the incident, and we can work with our prosecutors and help with getting our emergency protective order. And I think I've been away from the field for a little bit, so I'm gonna defer to our district attorney, our our prosecutors on explaining the how long is the process for getting restraining orders now.
And so I maybe might be able to, one second, okay, shed a little bit of light on the emergency protective order. So if a victim were to call 911, the police go out to the scene, they take the report, they figure out what's going on. And in situations where there is a concern for the victim's safety, police officers and law enforcement are able to call an on-call judge 24 hours a day to request what's called an emergency protective order. And what that is, it's good for about 48 hours. With COVID, it was extended to 72 hours. And what that is it gives that break and that reprieve for the victim to be able to get to a place of safety, to ensure that the immediate abuse stops at that point, and gives them an opportunity to go into court to get an actual restraining order. And the reason for that is it is a very short-lived shelf life for that protective order. And what victims need to understand is it's not the be all end all. They'll have to go into court and get a restraining order that will last longer. And that can be done as during normal business hours. And I know that our advocates, at least at the district attorney's office, we work with victims anytime we receive a case, whether a case is issued or not, to provide them with the information on how to go to the civil business office to be able to obtain that restraining order.
All right, we have one more question. Looks like, what do you recommend for Filipino Americans to do if they are in a domestic violence situation and they are unsure about what they should do? How can they be provided with culturally relevant assistance for their needs to be met?
Just call me. That would be the easiest, especially with a Filipino American. I mean, that is my mission. So I mean that is basically what I do as far as my being a liaison. So I'm part of the liaison for the advisory board for the Filipino American community as well. So and it doesn't matter where it happens, and that's basically what the first thing that I would ask is that where was the abuse or where did it happen, so that I would know what resources we need to reach out to. But as far as what to do, that's the first step, right? Before it even goes to the district attorney, to the city attorney, it comes to us first. So I think the best resource is to reach out to the liaisons, to me. You can reach out to JoAnn to get my phone number. I try not to blast my phone number out there because it's just not going to stop ringing. So, but that would be my recommendation. I am always open for anything, just questions, just to what to do. So, and it would be my pleasure to do it. So.
And at the DA's office, similar to the police department, we really emphasize culturally competent services. Our victim advocates help close to 15,000 victims annually in every sort of language and every sort of situation, every kind of, and they're trained, and where it's some rare culture or dialect, they get help through professional services to accomplish that mission. Our DAs also represent a variety of diverse, they mimic the face and character of our communities. So we want to bridge that trust gap. We want people to reach out, and when they do, we want to make sure that we address it in the best manner that helps build trust. And the response from our victims has been very positive. We don't look for thank you notes or anything like that, but we do try to survey to make sure that we're doing the right things. And I always get just amazing, glowing remarks about our victim advocates and our prosecutors and how they handle cases.
All right. So, if all hearts and minds are in agreement and clearance, I want to thank our viewers this evening for tuning in and providing the back and forth that we need. I would love to thank our esteemed panelists for your time, your insight, and your expertise. Again, JoAnn mentioned that this is just the first of a series of forums, and we'd love for our viewers and our panelists to stay tuned and stay connected. We look forward to connecting with the community. JoAnn Fields, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanity, for being my backup. We tried to stay connected. It's just my nature, I suppose. But I really appreciate all of our panelists, especially our district attorney and her fantastic team. Thank you, Cheryl, for making everything run pretty smoothly and connecting us with the district attorneys, victim advocates, with all your community partnerships, with Justine, with explaining how we can connect, and more importantly, having a face connected with the department, with the numbers that were being offered. Thank you, Maricris and Vanity, for sharing your experience. I really feel your experience will make an impact and inspire someone that is going to watch this video, and they are going to reach out. And our hope is that we
Having
Thank you, JoAnn. We really felt those sentiments.
Yes, and absolutely right. And having sadly intersected with thousands of victims of crime, it is that power of the voice of the victim survivor, Maricris's voice, that really is life-saving. We hear that time and time again, that this is why people called for help, is somebody was willing to open their heart with courage and to share information. And it really was inspiring, I know, for my whole team to be a part of this and to hear Maricris and to be joined by everybody on this panel.
So again, thank you, everyone. This is the first of a series of forums. I will make sure I get connected with a strong Wi-Fi and make sure that I can continue this work with all of you. Our next forum will take place on November 19th, 3:30 p.m. with Southwestern College. Again, we know that this impacts many. Doesn't matter what age or where you are in life, but we want to make sure we are there with the resources if you'd like to seek help for a friend, for a family member, or yourself. We will continue the search for Maya. I'm going to ask Neil if you could flash the flyer again. But thank you, everyone. And I really appreciate all of you from the Filipino Resource Center and our board members. Thank you for making this domestic violence forum informative and hopefully useful, and can save a life. So please, again, share this flyer so that we can continue the search for Maya. And please know that we are here for you, San Diego, and every community of color. Oh, Maricris, you have your hand raised. I think you're on mute, Maricris.
No, I just said thank you, for hearing to be my sister's voice, and just hearing her story, and if her story again is gonna help someone's life, I'll keep on doing, and I'll keep on sharing my sister's story to everyone else and keep awareness out there. This is very important. It is very, very important for me and my whole family that domestic awareness should be one of our priorities too. That we have to save lives out there, and it doesn't have to be, to get to that violent. It need to be before that. They don't have to wait too long. If there's something wrong, then they have to act on it. We have to act on it. immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Maricris, and thank you for your strength. And we will continue to pray for you and your family, and we will assist.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I think my team's got to go home or answer more calls. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks, Justine. Thanks, Carrie and Terne.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.